he's been Prime Minister for 2 days. He gave a speech outside Downing Street with no lectern.
No, just a mic. He wants to be close to the people.
It's funny. I saw, I think it was a Spectator article that was sort of mocking him for that, saying, and Burnham gets a lot of criticism for the fact that I think people project it as him having thinly veiled difference in aesthetic compared to previous prime ministers. You know, he's like Starmer and jeans is what he's been accused of. And I think in some ways there's merit to that, but I also think it does actually make a difference, and these subtle things can have a difference in communicating what you're trying to communicate. And his message was very much, we're going to be different. We're not going to. And what did I say a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about what our advice would be for Mr. Burnham? You
said the first thing he should say is, we're drawing a line now, all this changing the Prime Minister all the time, we're going to stop all that.
Yeah, and that's what he said.
Pretty much.
He said, we will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. That's really bold.
It is.
He said a new political model and a new economic model. So these are high aspirations. Whether he will achieve them or not is a separate question. But it was an interesting first speech, just 6 minutes long, outside Downing Street with no lectern. He had all of his, I suppose, allies and family and people around. I thought it was really interesting how it's Josh Simons, isn't it, the MP that stepped down for him?
Yeah,
he was there
with
very
his baby,
casual clothes. Yeah, with his youngster.
Oh, right, okay.
And then Steve Rotherham, mayor for Liverpool,
had the baby.
Region, had his baby. But I thought it was interesting because Josh Simons, this is somebody that wasn't assumed to be a close ally of Burnham, but then stepped down to give him his seat. You know, he's right there on Downing Street and celebrating with him. It's always strange, isn't it, a new changing of the guard, because it's a very celebratory and it's sort of quite weird how this was a government that was marred in scandal and just complete failure for the last few months, and now it's like, yay, we've got a new leader and it's all okay and everybody's cheering him on.
Yeah, I think my kind of vague worry is that this is the high point of his premiership, but let's try and be positive.
So I thought that first speech was really good. He said in the 1980s, Britain took some wrong turns. Political power was centralised, economic power privatised, large parts of the country deindustrialised. Almost sounds like a rap, doesn't it? But what he's doing there, and I think this is clear with Burnham, and we've covered him, you know, for the last few months, but particularly knowing that he was going to inevitably end up as Prime Minister. He has a story, and his story is laid out in those, you know, 3 lines there. That in the 1980s, we took a wrong turn. Notice not saying we need to go back to before the 1980s, as in we did things that we need to repeal, but instead we took a wrong turn and we could have gone this way. That's a really interesting idea, because I think there are a lot of people, this isn't a question of left or right, but a lot of people in the country that feel that was a turning point for that sort of managed decline that we talk about as a country. And we would say that in the SDP, a lot of things, key industries that were sold off. And that story of large parts of the country deindustrialised, he's connecting to those sort of red wall seats, you know, those post-industrial areas, the maker fields.
The Makerfield test. We have the Makerfield test now.
Yeah, just elaborate on.
Well, does it serve the people of Makerfield? But broadly, I think it's the same as saying, is it in the national interest? To be honest, but.
Right. And this was, I think, somebody within Blue Labour was making this argument that it's a good job he won Makerfield rather than being allowed to stand in Gorton and Denton.
Correct.
Because Gorton and Denton would just be a completely different test, the Gorton and Denton test.
Oh, very different. Yes.
And Makerfield is actually probably a bit more representative of the country as a whole.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah. So that is interesting. And then he said, I will soon issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in this country. Now, that's interesting because that was what Jeremy Corbyn gave as a response when he was asked what his first words would be as Prime Minister. Now, he never got that opportunity. Burnham does have that opportunity. I mean, a lot of people will know if they're in Greater Manchester that was one of his pledges. And he actually did manage it during COVID, but there was a particular set of circumstances surrounding that time during COVID. And since then, it's homelessness and rough sleeping has got worse. The arguments on Burnham's side, I suppose, would be that it's a national issue and it is something that's hard to fix regionally, which I agree with, because if you're saying he had this program called ABEN, a bed every night. Now, if you're doing something like that, what do you do when people come from different regions and say, oh, brilliant, we can get a bed in Manchester? You're then trying to fix the whole homelessness problem in the UK just in one region.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got what he wanted. He's got the ability to do that now on a national level. And it's a pledge that is measurable and we can see whether he's actually going to achieve what he wants to do.
Interestingly, though, I don't think it's the thing that most people are worried about.
No?
I don't think most people think, what's the biggest problem in the UK? I don't think they think it's homelessness. They think it's the cost of living crisis, don't they? So it's odd that he started there.
Yeah, I wonder if, I guess, rather than it being the central policy principle of his government, which he's kind of seemingly stating is the cost of living. He said, we're going to be the cost of living government, his words. I think instead of that, he's saying, we can't do any of that whilst people are, sleeping on the streets. And he's almost using that as a sort of a direction, or what would be the word for it? Like indicating to the country that we're not leaving people behind. We're not going to be doing all this other stuff whilst there are people sleeping on the streets. And I to be honest, and I remember when Corbyn said it, I was I felt very positive towards that, because I thought, yeah, that's the right approach. We shouldn't be having people sleeping on the streets. Yeah. And you've talked about this as when you have your guiding star project. Yeah. If you say something like that, you then go, well, what are the problems? And you start to look at cost of living, you start to look at housing, and you think, okay, it's not working, our current housing system. So we have to change that, we have to improve it. You also then start to look at things like immigration and the levels of immigration. Yeah. I mean, if you're, working from first principles and looking at it on the whole rather than being sort of ideologically driven. So I think it's a real positive thing to say. Okay. And my criticisms of Burnham does not lie in this speech. Right. Okay. I think that the speech was really good.
I did think that was the one point where, for me, I just went, whoa! I didn't expect that. The ending rough sleeping thing.
What did you think of his cabinet picks?
Interesting. I mean, there's no massive surprises, are there? I mean, I think John Healey as Chancellor, I think, is a bit of a. It's designed not to upset anybody.
Well, it was surprising for how boring it was.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there was nothing in there that I'd kind of gasped and thought, "Oh, I can't believe he's done that." So
Healey as Chancellor, Miliband as Foreign Secretary.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's what you do with people that you want to be out of your way and out from under your feet, don't you? You give them that post.
And I know we disagree on Ed Miliband, but I can't say I'm disappointed with that. The idea of Ed Miliband as Foreign Secretary, I think is perfectly fine. Like go around the world and showcase Britain to the world. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, okay. At least he's not doing anything to upset things.
Yeah, get his hands off the levers of economic power. But yeah. Shabana Mahmood as Home Secretary.
Great that he's kept her. And I really hoped he would. I know there's a lot of discussion about her being potentially the Chancellor, but I do think the fact that she's making really big difference as Home Secretary, I think it's absolutely right that he leaves her there.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I said this in last week's episode with Luke Gittos about the Manchester Council meeting that I'd attended, that the entertainment of the meeting was almost to its detriment, or to the detriment of the council, because the meetings probably should be a bit more boring and focused on the things that they can control. And in some ways, I always want to see a cabinet reshuffle because it's exciting and it's like, okay, what would it look like? Mahmood as Chancellor. But if a minister has been in position for a year or a couple of years, they'll have started to do things which by keeping them in that role, they'll be able to see through.
Yeah.
And so it's probably a good idea. And I think we would both be in favour of longer ministerial reigns so that you can have a bit more stability within departments. What goes contrary to that, I suppose, is Streeting has been moved from health to defence.
Correct.
And we've got Yvette Cooper as health secretary.
Yeah, does she know anything about that? Is she? I don't know.
I don't know. But then I don't know if you do need to know anything about these things. Okay. I don't know if that's the point, you know. It probably should be the case, and I would like to see that. But, you know, I thought that was my first thought when John Healey became Chancellor. I thought, does he know anything about economics? And like,
he has served in the Treasury before.
He has, is he?
Yeah.
I presume he must
Under
have
Gordon Brown.
Really?
Going back that far, yeah.
But yeah, maybe this is a little bit too innocent of me, but I just assumed that certain MPs would only be able to do certain departments because that's their speciality. Where it feels like it's more sort of, we have to find a job for so and so, so we'll stick them in health or stick them in work and pensions. And
I think there's areas where it really does help. So, I mean, one of the people I was pleased to see the back of, who was obviously in the position because of his knowledge, was the Attorney General, Richard Hermer. He's gone. Although I don't think the person who's replaced him, I don't know enough about them to decide whether they're any good or not. But I was glad that he went.
Would there be a cabinet position that you would absolutely not want to do? Like, which ones would you just say, I don't know anything about that?
So if I was waiting for the call from Andy and he was going to offer me something and I would say, what would I say no to?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I think I would be scared to take on education.
Okay.
Just because I think it is very... Education means so many things, doesn't it? So it's right from kids joining in their first infant class, right up to, you know, doctorates at degree level, and including skills and everything. It's a huge area where I think I would be quite worried about taking that on. And everybody in the area is a real expert, aren't they? So I'd worry about that a bit.
You know what that means is that in a future SDP government, when you get made Education Secretary, the press will be digging up this podcast and saying,
she said she didn't know anything about it. There you go. Don't offer me that then.
Okay.
When you're Prime Minister.
Okay. I'm trying to think which ones I wouldn't do. Women and Equalities Minister.
Oh, yeah.
I'd give it a go.
I mean, I think if I was PM, I'd get rid of that.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. Make them all women and education, women and defence, women, just every single one.
Well, just be sex blind.
Yeah.
Shouldn't matter, should it?
I agree. Okay, let's just wrap up talking about Andy Burnham's first couple of days by mentioning the policies he's announced already.
Yeah.
So what was really interesting about his sort of policy proposals is that he said that in the autumn he's going to bring forward a 10-year plan, and he said this in that 6-minute speech, which again is distancing himself as much as he can from previous politicians that have been accused of being very short-termist in their thinking. He has said that he's going to do things straight away, which he can do. Scrapping digital ID.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! And that will then enable him to spend that money, which wasn't even accounted for, to end VAT on energy bills.
Hurrah! Except in the north of Ireland.
Go on.
So I understand they can't do it in the north of Ireland because of the Windsor framework, which effectively extends European requirements to the north of Ireland still. And they don't allow you to change VAT. Well, they don't allow you to remove VAT.
And we can do it here.
Correct.
Because of Brexit. Brexit
Correct.
benefit.
A Brexit
there
benefit.
You go. He's also said today, I think, that they're going to implement £2 bus fare all over the country, which we already have in Manchester. Again, I think it's a really positive policy because it is positively affecting those people that take the buses, which are bound to be the poorer in society. So it's one of those sort of redistributive policies in a way.
Yeah, great. I fell foul of the £2 bus fare in Manchester last week because I've been taking buses because our trams, our Metrolink, they're suspended for 3 weeks while they do running repairs to the tracks. So the £2 bus fare in Manchester, I don't know if you know, it applies to if you take another journey within, I think it's 30 minutes, you can use the same ticket.
Yes, that's a recent development from the mayor's office in the last 6 months.
But to do that, you have to get a ticket.
Ah, is that right?
And so before you tap your card, you have to say, please, can I have a ticket? Because after you've tapped your card, they can't then go back and get it to give you a ticket. They have to know beforehand.
Oh, I thought
that
it
you
worked
want the
it
ticket.
out by just tapping. Okay.
No.
Just lastly then, who do you think are the winners and losers of Burnham becoming PM? I mean, people said that Reform were really happy for Starmer to stay as Prime Minister because as long as he did, Reform were becoming more and more popular as an opposition to Starmer. Who do you think are the winners and losers?
Do you mean in a material way, or because I think there will be a kind of Burnham bounce, as it were?
I always mean politically.
Oh, right, okay. So politically, I think there will be a Burnham bounce. I think like the Labour Party will get an increase in support short term, particularly if he's doing quite popular things like bus fares and fuel. I actually think it probably will work against Reform in that I almost think it will focus, because people are being focused back onto Labour. They'll almost implicitly be focused back onto Labour's traditional opposition, the Tories. So I think it might be good for the Tories. And I think it will be good for people who want to talk about political things rather than want to talk about who bought whose glasses or, some of that, I don't know if you call it fraud, but some of that kind of underhand stuff that the previous administration engaged in.
I wonder what the first Burnham scandal will be.
He's got new shorts, I believe, after his previous shorts were pictured. Very short shorts.
Okay.
You remember them?
Too short.